Today we'll discuss about the different types of ecosystem. The term ecosystem was coined by the British ecologist Transley, and ecosystem is also called as biogeosynosis or biogeosynos. It is a complex, self-supporting and dynamic system of mutually depending and regularly interacting abiotic and biotic components. So, ecosystem is defined as a complex and self-supporting dynamic system of mutually depending and regularly interacting non-living and living components. It is thus a self-maintaining and self-regulating community of individual organisms which interacts with each other and also with the physico-chemical components of their environment. And ecosystem is the basic energy processing and nutrient generating functional unit of the biosphere. Thus, in other words, it is a functional system formed of a biotic community with its physical environment or with its abiotic component. So, the sum total of the organisms of an ecosystem is termed as the biota or biosynosis, and the area occupied by the biota is called as a biotope. So, the basic unit of biota is population. And what is a population? Population is a group of organisms of same or closely related species. This biotope and biota are two inseparable factors, and these two makes up the ecosystem. So, ecosystem is a functional system formed of biota and biotope, or ecosystem is a functional system formed of a biotic component and its physical environment. The term biosynosis for ecosystem was first coined by German biologist Carl Moebius. He used the term biosynosis to represent the community of organisms that are associated with a particular habitat. So, how do you define ecosystem? Ecosystem is also termed as biogeosynosis or biosynos. It is a complex self-supporting dynamic system composed of abiotic and biotic components, and these abiotic and biotic components are mutually dependent and they regularly interact with each other. Ecosystems thus greatly vary from each other in size, in composition and complexity. Basically, there are two types of ecosystem. They are classified into natural and artificial ecosystems. Natural ecosystems are naturally occurring, relatively stable and self-regulating ecosystems, and they have very high species diversity also. Whereas artificial ecosystems are less stable ecosystem, they are man-made ecosystems and they have very low species diversity and they are without any self-regulation. So we can say that the artificial ecosystems are created, regulated and maintained by human intervention. Natural ecosystems are naturally existing stable ecosystems. Examples of natural ecosystem includes desert, forest, grasslands and ocean. Whereas artificial ecosystem examples includes canals, gardens, agricultural ecosystems, cropland ecosystems and reservoirs. These are some of the examples for natural and artificial ecosystem. Now, based on the habitat, the ecosystems are classified into aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Aquatic ecosystems are again divided into marine and freshwater ecosystem. So, what do you mean by aquatic ecosystem? Aquatic ecosystems are those ecosystems that contains water and they are divided into two kinds, marine and freshwater ecosystem. Marine ecosystem includes sea, estuaries, brackish waters and seashores. Examples of freshwater ecosystem includes freshwater bodies like lakes, ponds, ditches, swamps and marshes. And the freshwater ecosystems are again divided into two categories. They are lentic and lotic ecosystem. Lentic ecosystems are those freshwater ecosystem that includes standing freshwater body. That means the freshwater here is stagnant. Examples includes lakes and ponds. Whereas lotic ecosystem includes those freshwater which are formed of running water. Example streams, rivers and brooks. Here the water is not stagnant and it includes running waters. Okay, so these are the two types of freshwater ecosystems. So based on the habitat, we can divide ecosystems into aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystems are again divided into marine and freshwater ecosystem, and terrestrial ecosystems are divided into different types based on the climax community. Okay, and terrestrial ecosystems are generally called as biomes. They are generally very large and inhabited mostly by climax communities, and they include forest ecosystem, grassland, then desert ecosystem. All these are examples for terrestrial ecosystem. So what are ecosystem? Ecosystems are stable functional systems with resistant stability and resilient stability. There is regular and cyclic exchange or movements of mineral nutrients between the organisms. So there is nutrient cycling occurs in an ecosystem, and in ecosystem all ecosystems are nutritionally and energetically self-sufficient ecosystem, and the functioning of ecosystem in turn depends upon this energy flow and nutrient cycling. Okay, so here we briefly discussed about the different types of ecosystems. Now let us discuss about freshwater ecosystems. So freshwater ecosystems or freshwater habitat forms relatively a small portion of the biosphere. They fall into generally two categories like we discussed just before. They are divided into lentic habitats and lotic freshwater ecosystem. Lentic ecosystem or lentic habitat means those freshwater bodies in which the water body or the water is said to be still or standing or stagnant. Examples lakes, ponds, swamps, all these are examples for lentic habitat or lentic freshwater ecosystem. Whereas lotic freshwater ecosystem includes running water bodies like brooks, springs, streams, rivers and creeks. So the study of freshwater ecosystems is collectively known as limnology. So what is limnology? Limnology is referred to as the study of the freshwater ecosystem. Pond ecosystem is an excellent example for freshwater ecosystem. What is a pond? Pond is any small, shallow, stagnant and isolated freshwater body. Generally, they are almost or they are remain unaffected by changes in the external environment. So, it is an example for self-sufficient lentic ecosystem. And ponds are characterized by gentle water, low salinity, low pressure and low water transparency. The wave action will be also very less in the case of a pond ecosystem. Generally, the pond ecosystems have high turbidity and they have high resistance to temperature fluctuations, and the light penetration will be reduced. Water currents are generally less or absent in the case of pond ecosystem. Ponds are generally of two types, permanent ponds and temporary pond. And permanent ponds are those that contains water throughout the year, whereas temporary ponds they dry up during summer season. So based on the functional duration, two major types of ponds can be recognized. They are permanent ponds and temporary ponds. Now we'll discuss about the zonation or biotic division of pond. Based on the depth and type of vegetation, the pond ecosystem is divided into three biotic zones. They are littoral zone, limnetic zone and profundal zone. Littoral region or littoric zone is the shallow region of a pond that is seen towards the bank, whereas limnetic region is the open waterway that can be seen away from the shore, and profundal region is the muddy bottom of the pond. Generally, in littoral zones, we can find submerged, emergent, and floating types of rooted plants, whereas the limnatic zone is dominated by planktonic organisms or planktonic species, and profundal zone or the muddy bottom of the pond is mostly inhabited by heterotrophic animals. In deep permanent ponds, based on the light penetration, that is the rate of absorption of solar radiation and water temperature, we can divide the water column into different layers or different thermal layers. So thermal stratification, this is termed as thermal stratification. So thermal stratification is the vertical layering of water column of pond, and we can divide the water column of pond into three layers. They are epilimnion, metalimnion, and hypolimnion. Epilimnion is the uppermost layer. It is the warm, it is well aerated and wind stirred layer. It has very low nutrient level and very high gaseous content. It is generally heated by sun and homogeneous by wind. Hypolimnion is the bottom layer. It is the cold or less warm layer. It has very high nutrient level with low gaseous content. Generally, it is poorly illuminated and it is not heated up by sun and homogeneous by wind. And metalimnion is the middle transition area between the epilimnion and the hypolimnion. So, based on the temperature, water temperature, the water column of the pond can be divided into three vertical layers. They are epilimnion, the warm layer, hypolimnion, the cold layer, and thermocline. Thermocline is also termed as the metalimnion. It is the transition area. So epilimnion has wind-stirred water. It has plenty of light and air with poor nutrient content. It will be having abundant planktons, and because it contains phytoplanktons, there will be high photosynthesis also. High photosynthesis in the epilimnion region. Whereas in the hypolimnion, the lowermost part, the water will be cold and still. There won't be any light, wind, and the gaseous content will be very less. The nutrient content will be very high, and there will be scanty growth of phytoplanktons, and so photosynthesis will be very less in this region. So in between the epilimnion and hypolimnion, you can find the transition area or metalimnion. It is also termed as thermocline. So this is the thermal stratification of a pond ecosystem. This thermal stratification is more prominent in the case of deep permanent ponds, because in shallow permanent ponds, the water will be almost uniformly warm all over the period. So this kind of thermal stratification can be seen in deep ponds.